Deal or no deal, how much potentially, or in our armchair GM opinions, would these Jets players be worth if the Jets are willing to move them in a trade coming up on Tuesday? Obviously, the Jets are on their bye week this week, which is kind of a nice time to have the trade deadline, right? You don't have any game prep to worry about. You're just strictly focused on these potential roster moves. Now, obviously, the Jets have already traded cornerback Michael Carter to the Eagles, getting John Mechie in return, a little pick swap in the mix as well. That is like a why not flyer move on Mechie, who is still relatively young, and it's a position of desperate need for the Jets. Maybe he can at least be like a wide receiver 4 on the team next year. He's an RFA. So if you could at least solve that for a player that you were going to cut anyway in Michael Carter, why not do that? Now, Diana Rossini is still reporting a couple of things. Number one, that the Jets are not necessarily, and this is pretty consistent with the reporting we've seen, the Jets are not necessarily actively shopping any particular player. I think Michael Carter was a contract they were willing to dump, and they're probably pretty aggressive in trying to make that move because he essentially became a backup. But players like Brees Hall, Quinnen Williams, Jermaine Johnson, Will McDonald, Quincy Williams, the most talked about guys. The Jets are not necessarily shopping these guys, desperate to get rid of them. But of course, you answer the phone, and every player, there is a price that they could say whatever they want. You know, they could say whatever they want to Jermaine Johnson. If someone is crazy enough to offer, like, I don't know, a first and a 3, Jermaine Johnson would no longer be a Jet, right? By the end of that phone call. But with Brees, reportedly their asking price is a 3rd-round pick. That was Albert Breer, Rossini, all the insiders that was floating around today. 3rd-round pick, because then you see all of the Chiefs fans, Chargers fans. Would you send a 3rd-round pick for Brees Hall? It actually is pretty pricey for a running back on an expiring deal. A running back has never been traded at the deadline or within season on the last year of his contract for a 3rd-round pick in NFL history. I learned that today. That's pretty wild, right? It's a lot. It's a lot for running back on an expiring deal. Now, obviously, a team that is willing to do that would almost assuredly also be interested in extending Brees Hall and having them on their team for a couple of seasons. Otherwise, it's not worth it to rent a running back for 10 games, whatever the case may be. But yeah, I think if you're the Jets, that is a perfectly reasonable bar to set. Like, what is the least you're willing to trade a player for? It's kind of the idea of this video. And with Brees, I'm right with the Jets. I think a 3rd-round pick would be the least I would want to do it for. Obviously, a 2nd-round pick, would I do it? Sure, but that offer doesn't exist. I'd be very shocked if a team was willing to give a 2nd-round pick for Brees Hall. So, but if someone wants to like a 3 and a 6, that's still steep for a running back. I would probably, that's when you're maybe leading more towards yes. But Brees in a 4, or I'm sorry, like Brees for a 4, Brees and a 7 for a 4, which is kind of more likely what you're talking about value wise. I wouldn't want the Jets to do that for all the reasons we talked about a bunch of times. I think Brees Hall has been both overrated and underrated in the course of the last 2.5 years. Like, he's still, I don't know, like the 9th or so best running back in the NFL. He's still the 2nd best offensive weapon on this Jets team. He's on pace for over 1,500 scrimmage yards with pretty good efficiency. He's averaging 5 yards a clip. Fumbles have gone away. Drops have gone away. He's been durable, seems healthy. So, not a player I'm dying to get rid of. If the Jets want to keep him here for the next 2 years, because realistically, that's kind of when running backs start to turn downhill, right? They get about 6-7 seasons, most of them, unless you're like Derrick Henry. And running back is a position where you definitely don't need to spend a ton of resources to get a good one. And if you look year over year, there's like random dudes who pop off. Like this year, it's Javonte Williams on a renaissance season, J.K. Dobbins, Dowdle. Any year you could take a snapshot and there's like just random backs who have explosive years. But if you look at a big sample size and running backs who are good year in and year out, Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, Christian McCaffrey, James Cook. a lot of them, well, all the guys I just named are first and second round picks. Jonathan Taylor, second round pick, right? Um, so it's one of those positions where if you're not going to take one in the late first or in the second, and then just don't draft one until like the sixth or seventh round. The mid round running back is actually one of the worst investments that a team could make, along with mid round QB. We're going to take a dart throw on a mid round QB. Congratulations, you just set a pick on fire. Remember we were talking about doing that with like Kyle McCord? Kyle McCord in round 4. Is he like on a practice squad? Right? And even look with the Jets with their mid-round running backs. Michael Carter, little hot start as a rookie, nothing. I think he just got released by the Cardinals. You could get a Michael Carter as a UDFA. Then they took P. Ryan, nothing, washed right out of the league. Izzy Abanikanda. What is that a skill set that you even need to spend a pick on? Probably not. You could just go to UDFA. Braylon Allen. I don't know what to tell you, man. Like Braylon Allen is a solid short yardage back. Okay. Do you really need to spend a fourth round pick to get that kind of player? I honestly really think you don't. And at 1-7, like what can you say anymore? Like, do we really got to fight these battles of like, yes, he is Braylon Allen? Like, dude, no. You don't need to spend Isaiah Davis in the 5th. I actually think that is a good value. That's good because he is very well rounded, and it's a whole round later. That's fine. But the mid round running back pick is, I don't know. So if you say, oh, we're gonna dump Breece Hall for a 3rd, and then we're gonna draft our running back in the 4th round, it's and the money's not that crazy. Where what is he gonna get? $11 million a year into your cap. So I keep Breece Hall around. Obviously helps whoever the quarterback is. Next year, there's a good chance that it's a rookie. And he would crush it elsewhere. Breece Hall would crush it elsewhere, and then we have to deal with that. That's no fun. But their round pick is to me like that's okay. We're on the phone now. Hey, I can offer a 3rd. Maybe I'm not jumping on it if you're the Chiefs, and I know it's probably going to be the last pick of the 3rd round. But now we're talking 4th round pick to me and more. I really wouldn't be interested in dealing Breece Hall. Yeah. They need to pay Breece. Maybe they will. I would say if you're not going to trade him, to think about paying him. They do have some options of like transition tags and all that. But I think you'd want just have a conversation with the agent. Like, just it's okay to just be honest. Like, where do you see this going, man? You want to be here? I would extend him on Monday if he wants to be here. Why not? You're talking 2 years. And it's not like a projection, right? It's not a projection. Because you've seen him with this offensive coordinator, with this offensive line that's most likely going to be here next year. It's not like Jamie and Sherwood, which was let's cross your fingers that you're not a solid merchant and show that we could pay our own, and now you already wish you didn't do that. But Breece Hall has already had multiple, high production seasons. This is going to be like his 2nd full season of really high volume with plus efficiency, with multiple different coaching staffs. So why not? Why not? Now, Quinnen Williams, to me, the least I would want is a 1st round pick. Now, I don't know if a team's going to be willing to do that. Why would? Because you got to think like it. The thing is, it costs the Jets less to keep these players than it does another team to get them, right? Because if you're another team, you have a 1st round pick. It's like you just draft a defensive tackle. Yeah, he's probably not going to be as good as Quinnen, but you're going to give up a 1st round pick and then take on his money. I don't know. So that's why when Connor Hughes put out that tweet of projected values for different players, it was like Quinnen for a 2nd round pick. And I'm like, I could see that from another team's perspective. Another team is saying this is a high premium asset that you can get a starting player on a rookie deal who's going to be 22 years old instead of Quinnen, who's going to be 28 next year. So I get that. But at the same time, I just think it's highly unlikely that a 2nd round pick is going to be as good as Quinnen Williams. And I think we get hung up on the age thing a little bit too much. Like Quinnen is he how old is he? He's 27, right? Quinnen, it feels like he's been on the Jets for like 10 years. Okay, he's going to be 28 next year. All right, so it's definitely becoming a factor, right? If you can get a 22-year-old player. But here's the thing: I think Quinnen can be really damn good until what he's 33. Right now, maybe he's not going to be Calais Campbell in the league till he's 40. But maybe he could be Cam Hayward, who's like played at an All-Pro-ish level until he was 35. Even if he doesn't do that, and even if he can do it until he's 33, 5 more years, like I get, because when you're saying yes, trade him for a second round pick, in your mind, you're saying for this second round pick for this player, I know is going to be good for this long at this position that we need. And it's like that's not the reality. It's a roll of the dice. And I mean, a lot of second round picks don't even make it to the league past 6 years. Right? I don't know. I'd want a first round pick for Quinnen. For Jermaine and Will, I think you'd have to say at least a second round pick. You know, they're not as proven as Quinnen. They're both older for their years of service logged, and then Jermaine obviously has the fifth year option, so he's going to be decently highly paid next year. So okay, like that one, you could like taking a second round edge who's as good as Jermaine Johnson. While still you wouldn't bet on it, but it's definitely seems more likely than taking a second round defensive tackle that's as good as Q, right? Like you could take a Nick Scorton in the second round and go about your day, and he's just as good as Jermaine Johnson. I know he's not because we're Jet fans, but he is. You know, Jermaine's not some otherworldly edge player, but he's really good. And Jermaine could play all 3 downs, and I think he's one of those guys that you want to have around for doing the culture stuff they're trying to do. So 3rd round pick to me, Jermaine. I would not want to trade Jermaine for a 3rd round pick. I'd want at least a second. I want at least a second for Will McDonald too. And the thing about with Will, it's like someone you could say, well, oh, he's like disappeared for the last 5 straight games. It's like, yeah, that means you'd be trading him at an all-time low. If Will McDonald was not long for this team, you trade him last offseason, where he's fresh off of a 10-sack, 67 pressure season, and that's when you trade him. You don't trade a guy on a cold streak. You're not going to get. Again, was he worth the 15th overall pick? Probably not, but he's still better than a 3rd round pick is probably going to be. And I don't know, man. The defensive line is weird. How they can't create pressure. Even the lineups like past week 1. It's not the biggest sample size in the world because Jermaine was hurt, but past week 1, the lineups that have Jermaine, Quinnen, and Will McDonald together, they are just not getting home. Like you think it would be okay, they don't have a lot of depth, so they can't get waves of pressure like all game long. We get it because it just the drop off after the top 3 is a lot. But those lineups out there, when you have those 4 guys out there together, them not getting home to me is a referendum on the coaching. And you got guys like Quincy, who's an elite blitzing linebacker. And so let's talk about Quincy. Quincy, I'd probably say a 5th would be the lowest. And that's just because, let's be realistic. Like if you're saying that you would only trade him for a 3rd, then you're saying you're not trading him at all, which is fine. But like no one's giving you a 3rd round pick for a soon to be 30-year-old linebacker on an expiring deal. Now Quincy there's only one way. There's a few different ways, but I think they're all kind of unlikely. I think Quincy is not on the Jets next year. And if Quincy is not going to be on the Jets next year, then you should consider trading him, right? That just kind of makes sense. If he's not going to be here next year, you should consider trading him now, because for a 1-7 team, even a 5th round pick is more valuable than how many games? Let me stop guessing. How many games? Let me do some 5 seconds of math. We're 1-7, 8. Okay, 9 games left, right? A 5th round pick is worth more than 9 games of Quincy Williams in a lost season where you're not making the playoffs. In my opinion. Now you could say, well, just re-sign Quincy. Yeah, I mean he is good. He's good. He is what I would call a non-chart player. I like non-chart players. I like football players. Jermaine Johnson, football player. He's not Charty. Our guy Sauce dabbles in some football playerness, and he can get a little Charty at times, but he still doesn't let guys get open, and that's the most important job of a corner. But yeah, Quincy's non-Charty, man. Quincy actually will touch a football. Like Jamie and Sherwood has touched the football once all year. Quincy Williams, right back from injury, like the first third down, and boom, man coverage, pass breakup, touches the football. Our back seven of our defense never touches the football. They don't get near it. That's why they don't get interceptions. They don't get near the football. Quincy does, and he'll have a big tackle for loss. Now, I think his overall play this year has been probably where it was in like 2021, 2022, where he was just coming on as a starting player and he was very fast, undersized, inconsistent, but making big plays, high effort, but not like a down-to-down elite linebacker like he was that 1 year in 2023. So that's most likely what you're getting with Quincy. Like him, like 2023, it's now going to be 2026. That was Robert Saleh. You're 2 coaches later with Ulbrich in between. That version of Quincy Williams, I think we're being delusional. That was just like a year flash in the pan where everything popped for him. Let's just be real. Now, maybe if he goes back with Saleh, that could happen again. I just don't think it's the same thing with Sherwood. Like you thought that's who that guy was. That's who he was at Saleh and Mosley. Quincy. That's who he was at Saleh and Mosley. Now, it's fine to be a starting player. It's fine to be a good starting linebacker. It's no shade. But if you're going to pay Quincy Williams and expect him to revert back to all pro Quincy Williams, I think that is not wise. But yeah, it just comes down to, are you gonna, what's his market? Is his market also being a top 5 highest paid linebacker in the NFL, or even top 10? I mean, you're watching this defense and you're like, you know what? Those 2 guys holding down the middle, we got to pay them $30 million a year combined. We got to keep them here. Like it's insane. it's insane to think that. I am not a believer. I'm no longer a believer in paying linebackers really at all, unless they are a god tier like Fred Warner linebacker. It's one of the biggest contracts you regret. Is a bit, and I don't mean that at all. Like, okay, pay him 6, 7, 8 million, like the contract Quincy first got. Beautiful. But these $14+ million deals for linebackers, often are CJ Mosley. I love CJ Mosley. Horrendous contract. There's no, I mean, he would even tell you that. Like he was probably him and his agent were probably laughing like, are the Jets on drugs? They beat every other offer by $1 gazillion. They had to restructure him 1 million times. We're probably paying him until like Bobby Bonilla is on the books with the Mets. Terrible contract. No way to say it wasn't, no matter how much you love the player. Damian Sherwood, looking like a bad contract. So I think I am out in the business in my armchair GM role of paying linebackers unless you are like that dude. We do not have that dude at linebacker on this team. So that kind of is what it is. Now, if you can get off of Sherwood's money and Jeff Ulbrich wants to take him, and then you could have Quincy and then a different guy next to him who's cheaper, a little bigger. Okay. If it's not going to be Steve Wilkes here next year and you could sell me on some version where those 2 guys can play together, they're going to be worth the money. Okay. But you cannot watch this team right now with this coaching staff, everything staying the same, and saying you're going to keep those 2 linebackers next to each other and pay them both a lot of money with all the holes on this team. That'd be crazy. It'd be crazy. Honestly, you could sell me on getting rid of both of them before you could sell me on paying both of them a lot of money. Just to be non-emotional about it. I mean, look what's happening in the middle of this defense. We got to have some come to Jesus moments with this team and the players that we love, because I feel like if anybody would have said not to pay Jamie and Sherwood, like whatever it was 8 months ago, they'd be ran off Twitter. You got to do homegrown. It's not like it means something. I'm going to say it means nothing, but the value has to match the player. The value has to match the player. So yeah, Quincy for a 5th. I mean, it's just, if he's not going to be here, get something, right? Get something. And unlike Brees, I think it's a harder sell to make the argument that you could re-sign Quincy. And those are the big ones, right? The 3 defensive linemen, Brees Hall, and Quincy Williams. So I think the one that would make the most sense to trade would be Quincy. but I don't think it's gonna be some fire. So I think maybe you see one more move. I think it's gonna be a whole much ado of nothing. And Jermaine tweeted out something indicating, that he got some assurances for the team that he's gonna be back, and that's awesome. And then the thing is, like, these reporters, it's not really stuff that you could deny. Like, okay, teams are calling the Jets for Jermaine Johnson. The Jets are listening to calls for it. Yeah, of course, that's not really a report. Like, they're listening to calls for everybody. So they're going to keep answering the phone. And if someone calls and then someone eventually says, okay, we'll give you a first round pick for Jermaine, yeah, they're going to trade him. But right now, what the Jets probably told Jermaine Johnson is like, dude, we want you to be here. We love you. We're not shopping you. And that's true. Jermaine is he's a smart dude. He knows the business. He knows that the promise is, unless someone blows us away, we want you to be here. Is probably how that conversation went down. Right? But you keep answering the phone. So I'm not in the fire sale camp, to be honest, because then to me it's almost like guaranteeing you're going to be bad again next year. And well, we can't sack the quarterback with these guys. We can't win with these guys. But I don't. I don't know. Is it that, or are we going to do the Dan Campbell thing? Which one is it? Because did Dan Campbell like trade all of his good players at the deadline his first year? If that's the mold we're following, I don't remember that happening. Because then all those draft picks, even if you kind of get some pop with them, they're going to be rookies, and you're just. I think this team should be like, look, we already kind of. I kind of hope what they would be this year. Punchy, like those are the words we were using. It's not. Every year our teams from other fan bases are like, Jet fans, you think you're going to win the Super Bowl every year. It's like, dude, we literally thought that 2 times. We thought that the 2 Aaron Rodgers years, those are the only years we thought we were going to be legit contenders since like 2016. All right. So no one was even saying make the playoffs. Punchy, competitive, in the hunt, right? And okay, we didn't get that. All right. You got to get that the next season. And I don't think the best way to do that is to have a fire sale, and I don't anticipate that they will. And they also look from their perspective. Yeah, they probably have some, like, unless they literally only win one game, they probably have some job security heading into next year. But they still don't want to. They still don't want to start their first year being historically bad, because if they go one in, like, look, if let's say they traded, of those, how many guys of those 5 guys, if they trade like 3 or 4 of them and just do a fire sale, how many games can you really can you really expect them to win? Did you see this defense without Jermaine Johnson, even though it's not great with him on it? It's like, okay, then you're going to go 1-16. Now you're starting your regime off as that would be one of the worst seasons in Jets history. That would probably be by record the worst, right? Because they've never gone winless. And that would be the only time they only had 1 win since it's been 17 games. So they don't want to start by being the worst team in Jets history, right? That's not a good omen. It's unlikely that you start there and then it all becomes magical. So they want to win games this year as well. Even if we don't for the draft pick, I think, I don't know. I don't think they're really looking at the tankathon every week. I think they're trying to get better every week and trying to win games. Anthony Super Chat, thanks, man. Would you trade them all in the same deadline if you get what you want? Okay, so if a team called and said first for Q, second for Jay, second for Will, third for Brees, fifth for Quincy. I mean, I don't know, man. That's like, how many rookies can you have on your team, right? Um, I'd consider it, but it just seems unlikely that all those teams would match the value for all those guys. I'd say probably not, just because that's just so many rookies for somewhat proven talent. I don't think I'd want to do all that. But yeah, I don't think the value for some of these guys is there of what we think. Like a third round pick is high for Brees. It's high. Doesn't sound like much, but NFL GMs they covet, they cherish those hypothetical draft picks, man. They love them. Besides Sean McVay, he doesn't care about him, or Kyle Shanahan, he doesn't care about him. They do pretty well for themselves. No, I don't think you could do all of that. Because then you're looking at, then you got to be really cheap. I would be really cheap in free agency again next year and let all those rookies play. And then the following year is where you kind of push in some chips and try to make the playoffs. Honestly, it wouldn't be a terrible plan. Like if we could just have another year of patience, but I like a lot of those players, and I wouldn't want to see them all shipped away at once. Appreciate the super chat though, man. Island 24 super chat. Thanks, sir. Ma'am, person. Jeff fans crack me up. If Brees had 40 carries on 40 yards on 15 carries, we'd be saying trade him. Keep the good players. Draft maybes, men. Oh, so you're saying that it's recency bias because he had his best game of the year before the trade deadline. Oh, you're 100% correct. That you're right. I think that definitely changes things, but what are his numbers on the year? I think he's around, actually ESPN will tell you what he's on track for. Let's go to ESPN. This is what he's on pace for. Obviously not an exact science. 1,235 rushing yards, 5 rushing TDs. No, 5 yards per carry, 4 rushing TDs. He's on pace for 45 catches for 378 yards, no rushing touchdowns. On pace for 2 fumbles and 2 drops. Yes, so how many scrimmage yards is that? 1,600. He's never going to get a lot of touchdowns, I think, just because of how much. I don't know. They just don't give him they don't give him goal line touches. Maybe they like the bigger bodies of Allen and Davis down there, and obviously have Fields. Whenever you have a quarterback like that, like Josh Allen or those guys, they're always kind of touchdown vultures from your back. But that's a pretty damn good season. Yeah, and like a draft maybe is awesome, but the draft maybe that ticket has to match the player. I don't know. I wish if we could do it over, I wish we had some of our maybes back for some of those veterans we rented. But what are you gonna do? JFM for a 6th rounder. Isn't that hilarious? Let's go over the systematic deconstruction of the Jets built a positional unit in their defensive line and along with their cornerback room, really. That for 2 years they were able to win 7 games on teams that really had no business winning more than 3. With the quarterback, offensive line play, and coaching, particularly offensive coaching that they had. Those are if you have Nate Hackett and Zach Wilson and a bad offensive line, you have no business winning 7 games. You really don't. You really, really should not. You should be like a 2-win team. But that defensive line, man. And then what they did was they got cute. They got so cute, didn't they? JFM, a glue guy, still pretty young, durable, versatile, consistent, beloved in the locker room, on a reasonable contract, fit your system. You get rid of him because you want to chase the ceiling of Hassan Reddick, who's older, finishes his last year in Philly with like no sacks in his last 8 games, is in the middle of a contract dispute, and you trade for him without fixing the contract dispute. And you think you're going to get one over on Howie Roseman. And you spend a third round pick to do that. And you could have kept JFM for, you didn't have to give up anything to keep JFM. So you could have JFM and a third round pick. And instead, you want Hassan Reddick. And JFM could still be here. And Reddick was always a rental. Okay. So, all right, you do that. And then you also move off of Bryce Huff because the year before you had no interest in paying him. Well, he's a Salah merchant. Yeah, Salah was the damn coach. That's how that works. You keep guys who are good, and Salah was the coach. So you can pay Bryce Huff to have 10 sacks and 60 pressures in your system, like he's going to do this year in Robert Salah's system. But you don't want to pay $14 million for that, but you're willing to draft that designated pass rush skill set with a top 15 pick. Do you see the combination of those? That's insane. It's just how stupid the Jets are. It doesn't make any sense. Now, I'm glad they didn't pay Bryce Huff because without Salah, he's kind of useless. So once you made the coaching change, his contract would have become what Sherwood's is. So fine, I'm not like crying that he's no longer on the team, whatever. But that process was insane, truly insane. And then you give Kinlaw the money that you weren't willing to give JFM. Like, it's nightmare series of missteps to completely destroy a unit that was able to single-handedly win you games for 2 straight years. That's what bad teams do. Think you sent me the same chat by accident, man. He catches everything. Need to keep him. You talk about Brees? Yeah, Brees has actually had really good hands this year. He's had a couple of like contorted contested catch balls. So yeah. And obviously there's still, I think we all know it. We've been repeating it for years that there still is an element of Brees Hall as a pass catcher that probably still remains a bit untapped. And I think if you trade him to Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, they will unpack that pretty quickly, like probably in the first game, right? For sure. No doubt about it. Speaking of contested catches, like Mason Taylor in an actual like high volume passing offense, Mason Taylor is nice. Mason Taylor is way better than his stats say. He actually is. I think I saw Michael Nania posted some of his contested catch stats today. I need a better chair. I need a better neck situation. I feel like I'm too far away from the mic. Let's see. Maybe that's good. Probably looks weird. Whatever. My neck hurts. Michael Nania. Where did he put this out? I swear he did. Okay, here we go. Mason Taylor. He has 8 contested catches. That is second most in the NFL, trailing only Trey McBride. His 80% contested catch rate is second among qualifying tight ends behind Sam Laporta. He has 18 receiving tight ends, tied for 7th. And he's doing this all on the team 32nd in passing yards. Now, obviously, they don't have a lot of other weapons, so he's getting a higher percentage of that passing volume than he might elsewhere, but there's still not a lot of volume to go around. And he's absolutely making the most of it. Now, of course, he doesn't have a lot of yak ability, but you knew that coming out of LSU. And he's 21 years old. I think they should have drafted 2 tight ends this past draft. I mean, it's easy to say the kid from Syracuse now who's like balling as a 5th round pick instead of Barron, but there was some other guys like Jackson Hawes and Gunnar Helm. I don't know what they're up to, but I think it was worth drafting 2 tight ends in this draft. Yeah, I'd say keep Brees Hall for what you're likely to get, which I don't think is going to be a ton. Edwards 840K, Brees 12 million. Who is Edwards? Um, I'm lost. What's up, Daniel? I'm intrigued to see what Moogie does next draft offseason with a good year under his belt. Yeah, I mean, I still do think that day 3 they have to grow there for sure. I think AZ Thomas and Malachi Moore will kind of swing the draft because I think it looks like you hit on your first 2 picks. And then if you can get AZ Thomas and Moore to be starters, that's solid work if you get 4 starters. So it'll depend on how they do. Obviously, the trades are pretty solid, but the thing about the players they took on day 3, it's not as though it's like because always take it personal. Like you're saying, you don't want this guy on your team. Like I think Arian Smith can eventually play a role for this team. I think we'll be like, yeah, he's worth having on the team. Nice, he can stretch the field if they actually throw to him. But the issue is, it's reasonable to think that you could have drafted those guys and still got other players. So it's almost like you forfeited extra players, right? Because you could have taken that 5th round pick that you traded up to get Barron. You could have just kept that 5th round pick and still draft. Was it in the same draft? Or was it next year's? I don't know. If it was this year's, you could have taken that 5th round pick, just taken Arian Smith a full round later, conservatively, and then had another 4th round pick to take a whole new 4th round player, right? Same thing with Malachi Moore, like trading. I don't know, So you could have got maybe 1 or 2 additional players. Now we'll never know because maybe the very next GM was going to take those guys. Like Tyler Barron. Tyler Barron might have been a UDFA. Like you maybe have just spent 2 5th round picks that you didn't need to. You could have 2 5th round picks, and you could have signed Tyler Barron as a priority free agent. Right. So that's kind of the deal on day 3. It's not that these guys are completely worthless. It's that you could have maybe had additional players. But I think the first 3 picks are going to be starters, and if Malachi Moore can be a starter, you have 4 starters, and that's pretty good draft. I mean, the only Jets draft in recent memory that produced 4 starters is one where they had 4 picks in the top 40, right? Most standard drafts, obviously, you want to beat Jet standards, but most drafts do not produce 4, particularly by the New York Jets. Hope Mason Taylor stays relevant in the scheme when we inevitably draft for another receiver next year. Oh, yeah. I mean, he's probably going to be the number 1 feature tight end on the roster next year. And tight end, I think, is the worst position in franchise history. I think it's worse than quarterback because I at least have seen Chad Pennington. I've at least seen Chad Pennington, who was a multiple year adequate starter. At tight end, you have to go to like Mickey Schuler, who the Jets picked up before I was born. And even beyond that, it's like 2 or 3 dudes, really. And then it drops off to like, Dustin Keller's 4 seasons. And then like, gosh, who was the dude they had in the Rex Ryan years? Oh, it's going to drive me nuts. It wasn't Baker. He was before that. Who was the dude they had in the Rex Ryan years? Who was that tight end? Mm-mm. No, Chris Herndon was after. Can't think of his name. Maybe you guys have said it in the chat. Who was that guy? Jeff Cumberland. Yes, Cumberland. Cumberland is like Cumberland is 10th All-time catches by a Jets tight end. Cumberland is 10th. Tyler Conklin is way ahead of him. Tyler Conklin is one of the most productive tight ends in Jets history, right? I think it's the worst position in our team's history collectively from start till now. And all the contending teams have one. Now they also have quarterbacks. Of course, I'm not saying tight end is the bedrock of your franchise, but it's just all the good teams seem to have one that they use, right? So maybe Mason Taylor could be that guy. Yeah, Jace Jace Amaro, I forgot about, man. I forgot about him. It's a rebuild. Trade everybody that's not named Sauce Garrett, Timin Olu Membu. Well, yeah, you take calls on those guys, but Wild Wave, would you trade Brees Hall for a 5th round pick? Would you trade Jermaine Johnson for a 3rd round pick? Like where's your price at though? Our D line looks good on paper, but it's underperforming. Which starter is the odd man out? Yeah, it is. It is. It's their pass rush production is not good enough for those 3 first-round picks. It should be better. It should be better. Now, who's the odd man out? I don't know. I mean, it seems like to me, if this defensive line is going to be good, it needs another starting caliber edge. And Will McDonald, it's like it needs to be in more of a role player type of role. I don't know how else you could look at it at this point with Will, right? Um, and then maybe the D line can be good, and you probably need another interior player who can play 30% of the snaps and get some pass rush, like a Quentin Jefferson type. The team needs another JFM type on the edge in base with JJ, and another Quentin Jefferson type. And then whatever, if like, who cares? Like who the 4th edge is, like, okay, I mean, it's not as big of a deal. But if you have a 3 edge rotation, you could really play 3 guys the vast majority of the game if you rotate those 3. And right now, the Jets have a starting edge in Jermaine, who's good. He's not great. I think we love Jermaine because he's all ball. He's no BS. He's good. We like him, but he's not some otherworldly edge player. Let's just be honest about that. Same thing with Will, who I love his pass rush tools. He got a coverage sack against Cincy, and he hasn't really done much since week 1. It's not all on them. The ball gets out so quick because our scheme and our coverage kind of sucks, and we're not ever winning games. So they're not in scripts where they can pin their ears back and get the passer. Like the Jets have the worst point differential in the NFL through the first 3 quarters by a long shot. And their 4th quarter point differential is like plus 50 or something. They're the worst team in the NFL for 3 quarters. So it's not going to be conducive to your pass rush, obviously. But so it's a mixture of script, scheme, the back end not doing its job, and these players, the players, the defensive linemen simply should be doing more. All right, it's a combination of all those things. Quinton Williams is shocking. He only has 1 sack, and I don't think he even has 20 pressures yet. So this is definitely Quinn's worst start to a season as a pass rusher since his rookie year. Right? Because if you say, okay, get rid of Will McDonald for whatever, or some pick. Okay, if you want to do that, okay. But then you need another, and you're going to need another starting edge and another DPR. So you would still need multiple edge players, even if you got rid of him, right? Yeah, McDonald's like a 50. He's definitely not out there 75% time, I can tell you that now. I would guess his snap percentage is probably in the 50s because it bumped up when Jermaine was out. Okay, this year he's at 59% of the snaps for Will. Last year he was 66. Actually, because Jermaine was out the whole year. And Will McDonald plays 22% of the special team snaps. So he's on one unit. I don't even know what unit is he on. What is he on, like kick coverage or something? Who is going to play the special teams reps if we trade Will McDonald? I don't know, man. I think Will is one I don't know. I think Will is one that if he went to the Colts or something, like he'd probably crush it. Right? Who knows? He might just be Yannick Ngakoue, right? And if you can get a third round pick for Yannick Ngakoue, you do it, but I still think maybe he could be better. I look at excuse me. I look at Leonard Floyd on his Rams years, and that's who Saleh brought up when they drafted McDonald. And I think that's a pretty good player. Hopefully that's in there somewhere for Will. Marcelo says, I wonder if it's worth paying Jermaine Johnson and Will McDonald together. Yeah, that's going to be the question, right? At the end of this year. I don't know. It's hard because you try to find that balance of you want to look at each player individually, and not hold the team or even their entire unit like the offense's success or defense. It's like the offense being bad doesn't mean Garrett Wilson's at fault, right? Obviously. Doesn't mean Armand Membu's not good, but at what point, like if you're looking at this defense and how it's performed this year, and you're gonna pay like Quincy, pay McDonald, and pay Jermaine, it just seems crazy, right? Because like look at what you're getting. And if you're gonna do that, you have to change the coach. You can't just say, hey, all these guys who had a bad defense under Steve Wilkes, let's pay you all a bunch of money, right? So if they're gonna do that, that's cool, but you got to switch out the coordinator. I think is fair. Was Bryce Hoff really that good, or was it the scheme? We saw him in a different scheme. It wasn't good. So obviously, he's a very capable player. If he's playing in that wide nine alignment and just rushing against the right tackle, is really what he has to do. And obviously, if he does that, whatever, he's got 5 sacks this year, so that's the scheme. That's why if he was still here, it would have been good last year. But this year it would suck because I'm assuming he wouldn't be good again with a different coach. I mean, the Eagles, he looked like it was insane. He looked like he'd never played football before on the Eagles. It was wild. And Vic Fangio is a decent coach, so it's just he has to play in that very specific scheme, and that's what I fear with Sherwood too, especially because they're guys that, UDFA late round pick, converted safety. This isn't like it's not like Quinnen Williams where it's like, okay, he was one of the most dominant defensive tackles in collegiate history, and he's a top 3 pick. He's going to be pretty scheme proof, but a guy like and I think I would share a similar thing with Quincy because we've seen Quincy be great in one scheme in 1 year. If you're going to pay him, assuming he's going to be great in 2026 with Steve Wilkes, I think you might regret that. Oh, Will's on. Oh, obviously. How could I forget? Will McDonald's on field goal block, of course. We passed on JSN because he was injury prone. Is that the reason why? Rich Cimini said the Jets didn't have a first round grade on him because they thought he was too slow. I think Will McDonald is a quality pass rusher, but he does get hot and cold. Yeah, and the thing is, when he's cold as a pass rusher, his run defense is still pretty bad. Um, yeah, I don't know. Like I think if Will was like a second round pick, which maybe he was there going to be there in the second round, you'd be like, oh, okay, cool. We wouldn't really care. You'd be like, all right, he's going to have 8 sacks and play 50% of the snaps, and that's fine. But because he was a top 15 pick in a very good draft, we just have that angst of like, but the solution to that isn't just get rid of him. Like getting rid of him doesn't make you be able to go back and take JSN. So now it just is what it is. You have to look at the player and just look at what the trade, offers are, and it has to make sense. You can't just say because a player wasn't worth where they were drafted by you, they are you just get rid of them for pennies on the dollar. I mean, you could, but I would disagree with that. How much would you be willing to eat to trade Sherwood, and would you then pay Quincy? I think if you're the Jets, like what's left on his deal? I don't know, man. Like Sherwood, I don't. It's getting late early with him, man. He was benched. Like, dude, it's bad. There's no way to sugarcoat the Sherwood situation. And people are questioning, like, is he trying? And it's like, dude, but that's what Eagles fans are saying about Huff. I think he was just so out of place in that scheme that he looked unfunctional. Um, so I don't even know. I don't even think it's that. All right, Sherwood trade. Hmm. Man, the way they did this contract is kind of insane. Oh no, okay, I see. Okay, so it's only how much is guaranteed? Oh, he's only got guaranteed money for this year and next year. All right. So this $19 million in 2027, he will never see that. That could be gotten out of. Now he does have a good lord. He has a $9.5 million void year in 2028. See, that's come on, man. 10 million. We're paying Jamie and Sherwood 10 million to probably not be on the Jets in 2028. All right, man. Was that necessary in a tank year that it's become to be? Is that really necessary? $10 million to Jamie to the ghost of Jamie and Sherwood. And then Fields has a void year in 27 as well. That's like a big amount too. Fields will be 9 million. We'll be paying Jamie and Sherwood and Justin Fields 20 million combined to not be on the Jets here. All right, dude. But I would eat half of it. I would eat half the money. I mean, what seriously, 15 million a year. I would be willing to eat close to half of it. I would definitely eat 30% of it. Like if another team is willing to take him on for 9 or 10 million, whatever it is, and like a seventh round pick swap, I'll do that. And would I pay Quincy with it? To be honest, I wouldn't either. I wouldn't either. I would be totally fine with this team starting completely over at linebacker. Because look what you're seeing on the field. It's just the middle of our defense, the linebacker and safety. I'm not married to any of them. Now, Malachi Moore, obviously, you keep because he's a fourth round pick who's on a rookie deal and he can get better. So obviously, you're not going to just get rid of him for no reason. But everybody else in the entire safety and linebacker room, besides Malagoa and Moore, and that's not because they're amazing, because they're obviously rookies. I do whatever you want. I really don't care. You can start completely over at linebacker. It what are we seeing at the linebacker position this year on this defense that is making us say it's a position that they should expend a lot of resources to keep it where it's at? Nothing really. And I don't know. I don't know how else to say it, man. Now that is obviously predicated that I'm assuming Quincy's contract would be similar to Sherwood's. If you can get if somehow if I'm misreading that and you can get Quincy back on the deal he has now, where he's making 6.5 million a year, done, done. 2 years, 13 million. Quincy Williams, love it. But what is it? 3 years, 45 that Sherwood got, and a void year in 2029 for 10 million. I'm not doing that for Quincy personally. It'd be a nice little hit of dopamine because he's a dog. He's that guy. We love him. And then 2029 will come around and you'd be like, why the F do we have 10 million on the books for this guy? That's how it would go. So if we could look 5 seconds into the future, I would not want to do that. But I don't think Sherwood's going to have a market. You never know. But man, it would probably have to be Salah or Ulbrich. Who else would do it? It has to be one of those guys. Was McCreary Ball terrible? Oh, dude, I don't even remember. What, he played like 2 games? He got hurt. I mean, but he was always like a backup guy, right? I don't really remember. In your honest opinion, asks Troll Rich. That's not usually how a troll starts a comment. Very, I don't know. Maybe it's he's buttering me up so he could start really trolling. Should the Jets? Okay, should we take a QB in the first and then trade back into the first to get a top receiver, or take the best receiver in the draft and trade back into the first and get a QB? Okay, so you're asking, should they do the Giants method to get an elite position player at the top of the draft and then trade back into the first round late, or well, I mean, I guess between, if those are my only 2 options, I'd probably just get the quarterback first, just because you never know how it's going to go. I'd probably just get the quarterback first and then trust that you can even. I don't even know if you need to trade up. Like, I would trust. Well, I don't know if I would trust. I would hope. I would hope that with what is going to be a top 40 pick, that you can get a good wide receiver too. Now, if it's some situation where it's like a Mecca Buka type guy, you're like, holy crap, this guy was our 11th player on the board. He's there at 27. Okay. And you think he could be a 1, like this guy could be a 1A with Garrett. We got to give up a 4th rounder and a 6th rounder. Okay, then go get him, right? But all things, just being equal, I think we should be able to get a wide receiver 2 at the top 40 pick. Ideally, you would like sign a guy like Alec Pierce or something like that. Try and get one in free agency, and a secondary receiving tight end, like 2 veteran, capable pass catching options in free agency, which can be done. We're not saying they have to sign prime Julio Jones. Like, can you get a receiver who can get you 650 yards and 4 touchdowns in free agency? Yeah, you can. And then that gives you the best options in the draft. Like, what if you're like, oh my gosh, this edge that we really liked in the 2nd round is there. We're going to take him and then get another receiver in the 3rd, whatever the case may be. You want to leave yourself options. But if you don't invest significantly in pass catcher in free agency, and then you take a quarterback in the 1st round, you got to go take a pass catcher in that 2nd round. You can't leave this pass catching unit how it is this year for a 2nd year in a row. It would just be insane. Right now, it's not the end of the world because they weren't going to do much this year, and it's like a bridge kind of situation with Fields. But you got to do more for your rookie QB investment. Jordan Tyson, I mean, yeah, he's incredible. I don't think you'd be able to go get him, and even in the trade up, man. I don't know. people could rank these guys differently, but Jordan Tyson is unbelievable. You take more over Mendoza. Yeah, it's funny. We're gonna see reactions to that, like, "Oh, you're crazy," and it's like we don't know, man. Look at Drake May. Although it's nice to be the Patriots because you get to play like the Saints every week or whatever, but Drake May looks pretty unbelievable. Let's be honest. He looks better than Caleb Williams. Um, he looks probably like the best QB in that draft. Is it true that Mechie is a burner? Would we even utilize his skill set? Is Me- I mean, let's see. How fast is Mechie? Well, Google is 40 time. That will tell us everything we need to know about a wide receiver, right? You never been beat by that before. I don't think he's like a 4.3 guy or anything. 4.48. So that's like normal. I wouldn't call that a burner. I think when you get to like sub 4.45, so 4.48 is fast enough, solid. Um, but even in some, I just go on Twitter. I'm like, let me see some highlights. Let me see some grabs from Mechie, and he definitely unlike like he is much more. He's much sturdier than Smith. I know he's not listed as that much bigger, but he is definitely a much broader, like bigger hands, bigger catch radius than Arian Smith. Because that's like with Smith, it wasn't necessarily the drops like watching him. Because I'm like, all right, some of these I didn't agree with PFF that they should have even been recorded as drops. His drops weren't as bad the previous year. Like, okay, maybe they can fix these drops. With Smith, it's that his catch radius is so small and he's like so frail that he kind of has to be like pretty damn open to make plays. It's okay. It's so he's I don't think his ceiling is a wide receiver too, which isn't the end of the world as a fourth round pick. If he could be a 3, that'd be great because a 3 is a starter. If he could turn into your 3, like if he and Mechie could be 3 and 4, that'd be awesome because you have 3 and 4 solved for like no resources really. Um, then you have to go get your 2, but you couldn't count on Mechie and Smith to be your 3 and your 4. You couldn't pencil them in right now. You're hoping over the next 9 games that you feel good about that for next year. I think that was his pro day number. He didn't run at the combine. So that number is from his pro day, which that means he's probably slower than that because pro day numbers always have a little bit of gas on them. So he's probably in the low 4.5s. You don't see them beating the Browns. Well, I'll say this, man. This is going to be a disgusting game. Browns versus Jets is going to be like last week. It was fun. It was explosive, lead changes. This game is going to be probably like a baseball score. It's going to be gross. Um, but I think that I honestly think this game, there's 2 games on the Jets schedule where I think they have the better quarterback and the better roster. Browns and Saints. I think that's it. So from a coaching staff perspective, even though it's a rebuild year, those are the 2. Dylan, dude, we can talk about Justin Fields all we want. Dylan Gabriel is the worst quarterback in the NFL right now. He is horrible. He cannot complete anything more than a screen pass. He's tiny. He has no arm. He's like a third string quarterback. It's he's so bad. He's so bad. He's averaging like I think he's averaging under 5 yards per pass. He's averaging 4.9 yards per pass. That's like Tim Boyle range bad. Okay. And then roster wise, um, The Browns probably have a more talented defense than the Jets, but I think offensively, like the Jets have a more talented offensive line. Garrett Wilson is better than Jerry Jeudy by a wide margin. So I think the combination of like the Jets trio of Garrett Wilson, Brees Hall, Mason Taylor is better than the combination of Jeudy and Njoku and Judkins, and they have a better offensive line. They have a better quarterback. So um, if the Jets coaching staff holds their own, the Jets should win that game. I think this game and the Saints game, I think the Jets are going to finish 3-14, and those like obviously they could beat Miami. And the thing is like they'll randomly be close with like Atlanta and Jacksonville. Probably I'll pick them to lose both, but you never know. So I think they're going to win two, maybe one or two more games, I would say. And I think the Browns, I don't know if they lose to the Browns, I think can you judge anyone for becoming team tank? If they lose to the Browns, you're they're officially the worst team in the NFL probably, and you're 1-8, and then you're going to turn around 4 days later and probably lose to the Patriots. So you're probably 1-9. I think at that point, like, is a win against the Saints going to do much for you? I don't know, man. Like, if you're asking me if I'd rather go 1-16 and have the number one pick, or go like three, or win 3 or 4 games and have like the number 6 pick, I'd probably want the former. I don't know, man. It is what it is. Now, if you tell me they're going to go on a run and they're going to go win 7 or 8 games, okay, sign me up. Because then you really showed something. You really showed some chops as a staff. We're more confident. I'm like, you know what? Whatever quarterback you get, it's worth the trade-off of feeling a lot more confident in the regime. That's worth more than where you pick. But if you just beat like the Saints, who are kind of openly tanking, and then randomly beat, you know, whoever, like Quinn Ewers throwing to Malik Washington because the Dolphins like traded Jalen Waddle. That's not doing much, right? So they need to decide, like, crap or get off the pot. Go be a real team. Like, have that Cincinnati game be the point where like you flipped it and you're going to be a real team. Or let's just take these L's and, hope the young players play well and get that high pick, is kind of how I see it. I think splitting the difference is almost the worst case scenario. Any chance you're from South Carolina? Guy gave me code, but it didn't. What? I don't know what you mean, man. I'm not from South Carolina, no. Titans are the worst team. Yeah, I would pick the Jets to beat the Titans. Are we better than Miami? Well, we'll play them again, so we will find out. Is Cam Ward that terrible? I have not watched a Titans game from start to finish this year. I know his numbers are pretty bad, so I don't know what's going on with Cam Ward. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If they can't beat the Browns, then I think that's one of the few games where it's like you do have some significant advantages. There's not a lot of those games, but that would be one of them. Well, that would be different, twisted, right? Like if they start stripping it for parts, then obviously that would change it. Next year's running back starter, I'm going to guess Brees Hall right now. I'm going to guess. Doesn't matter who the Jets do. Woody is. I mean, you're not wrong to an extent, right? All we can do is hope that Woody finds a nut here as the blind squirrel that he is. That is the one. I'll say this. Here's the number one reason to have patience with Glenn. Here's the number one reason. It's not because he played for the Jets. The Jets drafted him before I was born. It's not because of that. It's really not. That doesn't translate him to being a good coach. It's not because he was a scout under Parcells for 1 year. It's not because he said, "Who want to fly with them Jets?" and it was kind of cool and it was like, all right, some vibes. And it's not even because of anything we've really seen on the field. It's not because he was right about Brandon Stevens. It's it's not about that because at the end of the day, the team right now is still 1-7, and they have objectively not had a coaching advantage through the first half of the season. But here is the reason why you should be the biggest argument for patience with AG. Number one, he's probably going to be here next year, so just cozy up and just let's see what happens for the next 2 years. That's number one. It's just reality check. Number two, it seems as though, like, for the longest time, we wanted Woody Johnson to just give the football ops to a person in a normal chain of command, like just give it away to somebody. Stop meddling around. Now, you'd like it if Mike Tomlin said, "Hey, yeah, I'll do that." You'd love it if Sean McVay said, "Hey, yeah, I'll do that." That was never going to happen. Aaron Glenn said, "Yeah, I'll do that." And by all accounts, it looks like Leon Hess did to Bill Parcells. Oh, he's not Parcells. Yeah, no shit, he's not Parcells. We freaking understand, but just follow the role he's asking him to do. Leon Hess threw his hands up and said, "Parcells, you're the judge, jury, and executioner. I'm done." And maybe Woody Johnson at his old age has finally said, "I'm done. Aaron Glenn, it's your damn team for better or worse." So no matter what we've seen with Aaron Glenn so far, I think we could all agree you want one, you at least have somebody driving the bus. And it's pretty clear because Muji called Glenn his sidekick at the draft. Muji is like the head scout of the Jets. Glenn is the head coach and the GM. He's the face of the organization right now. So at least you know. Even before we didn't even know. Like, okay, there's Woody and there's JD and Rodgers. Saleh felt like the fourth most influential person on his own team. He was the head coach. And then between there is like Woody's teenage son. So like he was fifth. Right? But he's like, here you go, Aaron Glenn. It's your entire team. So to me, I'm curious to see, like, okay, how does that play out? Because I'd rather have Aaron Glenn making the decisions than Woody Johnson. Just as a default, I'd rather have Rico the pup make decisions than Woody Johnson. So it's not that big of a compliment, but let's see how that goes, man. Let's see how that goes, because maybe it's not the guy you hoped that he would do it to. Obviously, we all hoped it would be some Hall of Fame coach that this wasn't going to happen. So let's see how it goes. That's the biggest reason for patience. Because at least from a process perspective, Woody Johnson seems to, now we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but seems to have said, F it, Aaron Glenn, it's your team. Which I think it's like, yeah, you kind of want that. Penalties. That is actually true. There have been a lot less penalties the last 3 games. Maybe we're starting to figure that out. And Tanner Engstrand, I would say, is I wasn't trying to say there was no reasons, but I was trying to say is like that's the biggest one to me still. Like Tanner Engstrand has shown some stuff. Their draft has shown some stuff. Penalties, cool, but really it's they gave it to one guy to drive the bus, and let's see where it goes, because if Woody has to pull the plug on that after a year, I think he's going to go right back to like Woody stuff. You know what I mean? Like there's no, because then he's going to say, okay, well, I did that and that didn't work, so clearly I can't do that again. Now you would say, well, no, you do that, but you just pick a better person. That's not how Woody's brain would work, though. That's not what he would do. He would say, I tried not meddling and giving it all to one person, and that didn't work, so now I have to do something completely different. That's how his brain would work, right? Of course it would. Mason Taylor has definitely been very good. I'm very encouraged of Mason Taylor. And Mason Taylor looks like probably gonna be the best tight end we've had on this team since at least Dustin Keller, right? Yeah, Arian Smith's cardio. Yeah, there should be one play every week where the play call is just look at Garrett Wilson for a half second, turn the other way, and throw it as far as he can to Arian Smith. Mason Taylor only 20 years old. He's 21. He's 21. He and AZ Thomas will not be 22 until like next year's camp, which is wild. But I'm leave it there. Appreciate you guys hanging out. If you want to hit the thumbs up on your way out, that would be cool. And we will talk ball soon. Yes, that is true, Rico, by the way.